That's perfect. Well, welcome to everybody to our very first conference for the US. Tonight, I have the pleasure to present our conferences. She's Kimberly Camera. Kimberly is going to be speaking about a very interesting topic that make us rethink about rodenticides and how to approach that from a different angle. How, without data, without specific data to guide our decisions, we are mostly using rodenticides or other products in a reactive way when there are other approaches that are yielding more results. And tonight's topic is going to be heavily based on canine rodent abatement dogs. So I won't spoil it anymore. Kim, please start with your presentation. It's an honor and a pleasure to present a friend of mine. And the stage is all yours, Kim.
Freddie, thank you so much. It's always so good to spend time with you, even though we're thousands of miles away. Um, Modern technology is wonderful. I just would like to kind of go over with everybody a little bit about what we're doing and what we're finding with canine and how I really am starting to see that working with canine can be a sustainable practice for dispatching rodents and maintaining it. So we've got several apartment complexes now that have no rodenticide out, and we literally remove thousands of rats from both of these apartment complexes. And afterwards, we're maintaining it by monthly visits. So it's like an upgrade. So we're doing monthly canine visits. We find the burrows. If there's any burrows open, we will gas the burrow, chase the rodents out. The dogs dispatch the rodents. We close the burrow up and go home. And so far, this has been sustainable. And we're in almost 10 months and sustainable with this particular project. I don't know how long it will be sustainable because, as everybody knows, once you remove a large proportion of a population, another population is going to move in. So that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for those other outside rodents to go, huh, we just found a primary place and we're coming in. Because there's something there they want. They want the food, they want the resource, they want the cover. These are mostly what we call dumpster rats, and we're working in the dumpster. So I've got some slides here I'd like to show you and kind of go over a little bit of our practices with the canines. So we hand catch rats and everybody laughs at us about that. And someone said to me one time, you don't look like somebody that would hand catch rats. So I'm like, well, what exactly does someone look like that hand catches rats? I didn't know there was going to be a typical look. This particular job, Freddie, when we got there, we were literally told we couldn't use the dogs. And it was a political thing. And we're standing there in the parking lot going, well, how are we supposed to catch the rats? And my pest person said, I don't care, just do it. So we managed to find a way with a leaf blower and cherry bombs, little kids, fireworks, cherry bombs that smoke. We smoked the rats out, and the dogs couldn't catch them, so we did. So we netted the area, and that's when we learned about how important barriers were. And we netted it, and as the rodents came out, we were catching them and putting them in a bucket and euthanizing them later. So it worked. Right now, I believe it was 720 some rats that we caught. It was a tip of the bucket for this particular location, but we were very tickled we caught that many rats. So this is a little bit about our certifications. I am a true believer in certifications. So we carry the NASDECA certification with all of our canines. We carry that with our bedbug dogs and our rodent dogs. We run two different type of rodent dogs. We run abatement and we run detection. So the only certification is for detection dogs. So we know. So we have a NASDECA, which is here in the United States, and it is one of the largest entomology organization that has created canine certifications for bed bugs, mold, rodents, and termites. And we also certify with WDDO. And we certify with a new organization, International Casino and Resort Working Dog Organization. Of course, we belong to all of our memberships, and we do a lot of continuing education. So it's just not as simple as grabbing a dog and going out and playing frisbee with it. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes into this. These are a lot of our sponsors that we work for and with. You can't do something like this without really solid relationships with your pest control companies and your providers of different equipment. And we just have some of the best partners. So if anyone wants to do this, I encourage you to get your partnerships going with your pest control. So these are some of our dogs, and everyone's always wanting to know, what do you use? What kind of dog makes the best dog? So when you're looking at canine detection, you want a dog that has a lot of drive, is obnoxious to live with, plays toys all day long, or has a really high food drive. You can train those dogs to find anything. So these are all of our rodent teams, even little Guppy, our little tiny dachshund, phenomenal rodent dog. We can work them in everywhere, warehouses. They can help find runways. If we're trying to find runways to try to find a satellite colony, my abatement dogs are only going to be distracted by the live rats, and they could care less about fecal or movement. So we run our detection dogs in warehouses, grocery stores, private homes, really anywhere. They won't kill, they'll only locate. And they're going to locate as small of an odor as one piece of fecal. So they will go to that low of odor. And that's what the pest companies need to help them mass trap. They need that information. Our abatement dogs, they're our little, I mean, they would be in prison if they were people. They're just obnoxious as all go out. And these are what are going to kill the rodents. Their prey drive is so high, that's all they think about. And what we used to do is we used to run these dogs for detection. And we realized a couple years ago, we weren't giving the accurate information back to the pest companies to mass trap, because all they were doing is chasing the live rodent. They could care less. You'll see a head turn and then off they go. Because they could care less about finding fecal, urine, hair, an old nest. They want to kill and find the live rodent. So that's why we started training, and we're one of the few people in the country. There's a few people in the country that train detection dogs, but we're one of the few working with pest control that actually trains detection and abatement. I love this. For all of you that were at Pest World, I love Dr. Quinn's comment. The revolution has begun. Rodents are adapting to anything we toss at them. Our tools are failing. Our systems are failing. So we've got to start upping what we do to maximize, and especially with all the rules and regulations worldwide coming on rodenticides, second generation. We're going to fight a political war amongst ourselves, and we're fighting a huge war amongst these rodents. So we find that a lot of these jobs will fail because the process fails. We fail the process. And when we got to looking, we had our aha moment when we were standing and looking at 675 dead rats in one day. And it was the 1 day kill, and 80% were males. And I went, holy smokes, we're missing.
In what type of customer did you find all those rats? Was an industrial complex?
Yeah, we primarily work at apartment complexes around their dumpsters, and these are very, very expensive apartment complexes. And the problem with the dumpster areas, most apartment complexes dumpsters can't maintain what they have. They're dumping it once a week or once every 2 weeks. There's trash everywhere, trash on the ground. They can't keep their sanitation. They don't have space normally for more than one dumpster, and it's full by the time it's emptied. And they're only emptying at one time. So what we found is these rats will start underneath the dumpster. No one can see them. No one even knows they're there. They go up and they come down. They go up and they come down. And pretty soon, when that population starts to reach its capacity, now the rats are moving out into the grounds and they're building a burrow system pretty much unseen. The last one we did, 3,856 rats were taken out of that facility. It was
Well,
amazing.
that's quite a number.
It's a huge number, and
Mhm.
it shocked us. And that told us we don't have a clue anything about these rats. That's when we started doing observation. So now what we do is we move into the area. The dogs don't even get out except maybe to go pee. And we're doing observation for 2 full days. We start at 10 in the morning and we go till 2 in the morning. And we're documenting movement. We're documenting absolutely everything we can see. Time they start moving, when they move, how they like to get into the dumpster, where, everything we can do. By the time those 2 days are over, we know their runways. We know everything except has this area reached capacity. So our first kill will be tell us if we've reached capacity. So that was our first kill, 675 rats, which we were shocked. And 80% males told us we're at capacity. And most technicians are going to tell you they catch a high rate of males to begin with. That's usually what people start catching pretty quick is the males, but no one's really keeping track of how many males, over what type of period. So one day, 80%. So now we knew we had to go looking, and we found one satellite colony 90 feet away from the dumpster in a container wall. And it was one of those railroad tie container walls, and they just chewed through it. And they had burrows all through there. So we knew that was there. We marked it. Then we started realizing we're not finding any young. So the next kill we did, we still had about 67% males, but now we're starting to get young females. We're not getting nursing, we're not getting pregnant. We're getting young females, no young males. So now I'm like, so now we got to find a maternal colony. So where's the maternal colony? So we start looking for the maternal colony and we find it under the dumpster. And I've got a video of that in here. That's under the dumpster, which makes sense. It's well protected from prey. The young can go whoop, right up into the dumpster, feed, and come right back down to mama. Low predation, no human activity, nothing, well protected. So now we can deal with that. We deal with that one last. So now we're over here at the wall and we do a kill at the wall and we got 207 young subadult males. Absolutely no females. 100% subadult males.
I have
So,
a question, Kim.
uh-huh.
When you are trapping in a more traditional way, there are formulas and calculations to try to assess the number of individuals on a specific area, right? So
There,
those kind of calculations also apply to this way of catching the rats with the dogs, or is totally a different model?
so Bobby Corrigan, who is national, international, he's the GOAT of rodentology. He's come up with a formula. So you take the number of burrows. So I can walk into an area and say, I've got 97 burrows. I'm going to divide that by 3 because normally one family will take up 3 burrow entrances and then there's a nest site. And then you multiply that by 8. And the 8 is usually how many young they have. And that should give you an estimate, a pretty good estimation of the total population of that colony, those burrows. But I just saw Bobby a couple weeks ago. We were speaking at the Purdue University thing, and I mentioned to him that particular calculation is beautiful for the burrow work, but it doesn't take into consideration the maternal colony, which is under the dumpster normally, and it doesn't take into consideration the satellite colonies,
Mm.
where they have basically displaced and moved out because of, we've reached max capacity. So we add 20%. So whatever that number is when we first start, we add 20%. How we came up with 20%, we guessed, to be honest. It's a guessing game right now. How many animals are really out there? It's a guessing game for us. So we add 20%, and so far it's usually 30 to 36% more out. And again, you're looking at how long has a colony been there? How long has it gone unnoticed? And a lot of these old colonies, these are old, well-established colonies. This last one had 217 burrows. You don't get 217 burrows in 2 months or even a year. This is a very well-established colony. And the measurements to this particular area, it was 100 yards long, 38 feet wide. There was, and you'll see it on here, there was a privacy fence in between. See if I can find it here real quick. Well, here's the video of the subadult. This is the maternal colony. Now, this guy right here, this old guy, I don't know if you can see my pointer. Can you see my pointer?
Yes.
Probably not. The old guy here to the left, that was a very sick rat. This female, she never left his side. And the rest of these, you can see they're going up into the dumpster and down, up in the dumpster and down. Those are the drain holes of the dumpster. They can move up in there and feed and nobody sees them. And they come right back down. All this, they're in dirt. They're in their little trinkets that they like to collect and bring in. And there's compact dirt and compact poop, and they go up in and out of those too. So this is the maternal colony. And when we actually killed that, we had, I'd have to look, but it was over 30% females and nursing and pregnant. And the rest of them were a couple old males, that type of thing. So I just find that so fascinating. I mean, you can see right there their activity. So this is the first trap everybody thinks to go to. It's what are we going to do when we have a rodent issue? We take our boxes, all of us take our boxes, we put our boxes down, and we don't even know if that's a runway. We are clueless if that's a runway because we're not given the time to do the observation. And I like the way what Bobby says. Bobby's like, we need to be observation biologists. And many people that will watch this are sportsmen. They hunt. They hunt deer, they hunt turkey, they hunt ducks. Every sportsman is one of the best wildlife observationists that you can find. They know their game, they know their prey. They stalk it. They know their runways. They know what time they start moving. They know what they're eating, what their favorite food is, and then they harvest it. So if we could start bringing a wildlife lens, wildlife management lens into our pest control world and take that time, or work with people like us that have that time, you would get better answers of where to put your box. I have yet to see a rat run a straight line unless they're in fear and pressure. You know, when we show up, there's no pressure, and the rodents are really just behaving the way they normally behave. They're not afraid of anything. They're very accustomed to people at these sites. They don't run, they challenge you sometimes. They don't even run from you. They'll sit right there and eat from you. It's not until we start putting pressure on them do they start running their straight lines and into their hides, and they will show us burrows we didn't know exist. They're almost what I would call a pressure burrow. It's what they're going to hit in an emergency, just like us.
You just say that a very interesting thing, Kim. Most of the time, and now I'm speaking my experience working with PCOs here in Latin America. Most of the time, when you see the traps are deployed exactly by, for example, 10 meters, 10 meters, 10 meters, 10 meters, 10 meters, most of the time the quality assurance person on the client side won't say you a thing because they don't know on a deep level about that. But when you start reading the material about how to do it in a better way, you realize that unless you know where are the hot spots of the distribution of the burrows or the entrance or the food areas, you can use or you can apply the 10 meters rule. The 10 meters rule. It ain't a rule, it's a recommendation based on a norm and so on. So, but when you have a very knowledgeable auditor, one of the very first things that they are going to ask you, if they know their job to that up to that level, is why are you deploying that in a specific 10 meters way, right? In a numeric function. And when a PCO goes there and doesn't know, is clueless because they only read, hey, it's 10 meters and that's it, no? And I wanted to bring that to the topic because you said something very important, that the very first step should be inspection. So
Right.
you don't, the only time that one is allowed to blind trap is on the very first time, because you just arrive, right? You don't have the context, you don't have any numbers, right? Where to deploy the base stations. So the only time that you should be allowed to do a blind trapping is on the very first time. Then you get data and then move or shift the stations, right? I just wanted to complement that because it's a very, very important, and sadly, most of the time it's like a cornerstone that is always missing, right? I just blind trap and that's it. If nobody noticed that I'm doing a blind trap, then here we go, right? But
Well,
that's not the correct way.
and you bring up really good points, and we're so used to, and it's not a technician's issue. It's the system. Some technicians get paid on commission. So if I'm getting paid on commission, am I going to sit in an area for 7 hours and do one thing? You can't feed your family. So the system needs to be tweaked. We've got some phenomenal technicians out there that just don't have the time, but observation needs to become key. It needs to become first. And we need to go back to what old pest control was. They'd sit and just watch, and to know exactly what they needed to do. And that's what we had our aha moment a year and a half ago. It was like, oh my gosh, we're not. That's why. And when we change what we're doing and we started observing, we do it for 2 full days, Freddie, because we need them to settle down. And we have cameras up. We'll run a drone, and if they're not sensitive to a drone, we'll run a drone and let it hover as long as, keep changing batteries. We will we will do cameras. We will do everything we can think of, including all of us are sitting around. These dumpster rats are not afraid of you. All day long, they have people coming and they have people shoving food at them and throwing things on them, and they're used to everything walking past them. It's not, it's a little different world than some normal street rat.
I can bet they are way more social than I, right? Because they are so accustomed to the people.
I, I
Um,
I had it on film. They'd stopped filming and I literally handed a roof rat, and you'll see the video here, but they didn't get me handing it a freaking Oreo cookie. And it took it. It dropped it, but it took it. And I got that close to do it. That's what was just amazing. And I'm hoping the videos and this.
the observation part is a very interesting way, because the observation part is a very interesting way to separate the jobs, because I'm taking notes from another conference, but that one is on Spanish. It was about aviary control, the columba. And in those kind of conferences, you have a new way to separate the profile, right? The technician that is only the operator, that only goes and do the job in a very automatic way without doing all the calisthenics, the mental work to know what I'm doing this and what is the benefit of doing that, only executes. And the other profile is the one that says, hey, I'm gonna take observations in this time and this time and this time because I am suspecting of this species, and this species should be able to come to a shelter at this time or going to feed on this time. It's another different type of profile, but I'm thinking, I'm suspecting that in the long run, it's going to yield more results, right? Because the other way to work, like without knowing what are the areas or what is accustomed the individual is like working with pure brute force, right? Only doing whatever is working in another
That's right.
customers. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's right. And you can't ever, and we've learned this, we're learning so much doing this, and this is such a complicated species. They're so intelligent. We're learning you can't fix this with a single tool. So
Mm.
we start out with education. Now we're going to look at their sanitation. Now we're going to start our observation, and we're going to do that for 2 days. And then we're going to start adding layers of pressure. We have had it to we've come in there and trapping dogs, they're gone. Even Norway rats, which I feel like are the tent, the I call them the tent campers. They will leave, they will move, and they won't move long. They'll come back, but they won't be as active. They won't be out. They'll be too cautious. You see them poking their heads out of the burrow and going right back in. So even putting too much pressures on our little tent campers here, it's too much. So you have to start stacking it. And so we'll start doing some trapping. We'll add a little pressure with actual traps. Are they going to hit those traps? We'll pre-bait them. Literally, the 2 days we're observing, we're pre-baiting traps. Always pre-bait your traps so we don't keep causing neophobia on these traps. They're smart. They see a rodent get hit, they're not taking that trap either. We didn't do this all the time, Freddie. We went to one job and we trapped and we trapped and we trapped and we trapped. Now, oh my gosh, these guys are so easy to trap, and they were. We came back 6 months later, and the young, we couldn't catch one on a trap. They learned in 6 months, don't hit those traps. The older ones did not. Some of the older subadults hit them, but now the little ones, we couldn't catch one of them on a trap. So I learned real quick, pre-bait, pre-bait,
They adapted really quick. We
pre-bait.
we have a question, Kim,
Yeah.
that comes from Gerardo. Gerardo, you still there?
Well, hello guys. More than a question, it's a comment. I need a Corona, please.
So you don't have enough of trolling on my conference in Spanish, so you come here and troll
It's
them
kind of
on
a
English.
local joke with Kim.
Oh my gosh, that just made my night. Thank you. I love it. I love it.
Very
So
nice.
that's
Right back at you, kid.
right back at you. That's stacking pressure the human way. So yeah, we want to stack pressure. And if you go in there and you just give them all you've got, you're keeping them away from you. So we're gonna stack it. We're gonna start trapping lightly. We're gonna pre-bait them. Now we're gonna start doing what Bobby Corrigan calls trust trapping. So I'm going to leave some of those pre-bait traps not set, and I'm going to set maybe one trap or maybe two traps. And it really does work. It works a lot, and it works really well with mice. We might put some traps in some cardboard boxes. They love to climb in cardboard boxes. And that one cardboard box might have a trap that's not set, but they're going to eat off of it. But hey, this cardboard box over here is going to be set. There's a lot to this. It's not just go take your black boxes and set them out. These black boxes become wildlife bombs. They literally become wildlife bombs. So if you get the one old rat, the one young dumb rat, and they're in there eating, it takes them sometimes 5, 6, 7 days, 10 days to die. I've heard up to 20. I don't know for sure. They just don't go and drop dead. And at these places, we have active wildlife. We've got a red tail that hangs out. We've got barred owls. We've got screech owls. We've got a fox at the city park area. So all these are feeding off of this. And what's not killing them is creating resistance. And that's a whole nother topic of talking about resistance. But you can't just throw these boxes out, expect them to work. They're not going to. They're not going to work. It's one tool. and you're going to catch very few. And I think that's why we don't understand the total dynamics of what's inside these burrows, Freddie. For us to catch 3,856 rats, we don't know what's happening in these burrows, because we're seeing what's on the surface. We're not seeing the nesting young that never leave, the nursing mom that never leaves. We're not seeing a lot of that. So we work in grocery stores. Again, this is detection only, and there was a rodent nest under here. So for those of you that do a lot of grocery store work or department store work that has refrigeration, we find a lot of times that's the active area. So you may have a shelving unit, and behind it, you're going to maybe have your refrigeration or your freezer unit. Perfect, because now they have the nice little cushy shelf over here to live under, and they can go over here and they can drink. They can get the condensation for water. There's plenty of food everywhere. And most importantly, they have a free runway under that building because those pipes aren't excluded under there. So they can get right into those pipes and just run everywhere they want to go. And you'll find entrances coming from outside in too. So a lot of times there's just, when contractors put things up, they're contractors, they're not wildlife people. So they're not necessarily looking at rodent and wildlife exclusion while they're building. And that's something the pest company needs to come in, and we're really pushing for that to come in before somebody moves into the building. So you would have the building goes up, it's beautiful. Now the pest company goes in and does a pre-move in and looks at all your exclusion areas before all the merchandise comes in. And that's going to save a lot of your rodent issues getting in and out. But these are two. We use spaniels. That's a tiny little Jack Russell up there who's a witch of a dog. And then we've got our little Springer. So we use Springers a lot. This here was amazing. So this was at a site that these are burrows under a road. This entire road, these rats were living in a rock wall, and we couldn't figure out, there were no burrows. Why do we have 1,000 rats running around here? And I happened to be standing in the right place, and a rat went under my feet, under the dirt. I could just barely see it, and another one, and another one. They were living under the road. And we blew smoke. We took the Burrow RX, which a lot of people that were at the Mexico conference, they got to see the Burrow RX, and we blew that, and smoke came up from the other side. That burrow system was so huge under this road. My dogs went in right there and were killing rats under the road. So you have to literally look everywhere and listen and look and do your observation. If we just would have went in there and tried to kill a bunch of rats, we never would have seen this. This road actually collapsed. This is a satellite colony that was found 90 feet away from the actual colony. So this is what we do for burrow mapping. So you were asking a little while ago about the burrows and how many burrows and the formula. So before we start anything, all this here is burrows. And we cleaned as much debris off of them as we could. And we marked the burrows with the red or orange. And there's one white one in the middle of there. And that was a nest because we actually watched mom bring up a baby. So that's a nesting area. So we marked it with a white thing. We like to know where the nests are and where the burrows are. This is about a 10-foot square section, and that's it. Here's another video of that nighttime video that I showed you, but you see how they've built that dirt up in the back, and I don't know whether it's rat fecal, whether it's just dirt. They're living in that. So this is the activity during the day. So we're observing them for 48 hours around the clock. We got video on this colony. Same one you saw a minute ago in the thermal. Not as much activity. So they're either up in eating or they're down below doing whatever, but it's the same exact area. And this is when we were talking about stacking pressure. If you don't stack it, Freddie, you're going to lose your colony and you're going to lose control of the colony. And the only way to manage rats is to kill rats. So that's our job. And we've got to be patient with it. We have to get them out in the area. We have to figure out how we're going to move them, where we're going to move them to. So when we go in and we take a look at an area, we're looking at it and we're going, okay, we're going to blow smoke that first day, and we're not going to kill a rat. We're not having the dogs out. We're just going to blow smoke in the burrows. And all we're doing is seeing the connection of the burrows. We're just seeing, where does the smoke flow? Where do we have to start closing down? Where do we want the rats to run to? And then we build our barrier around that. And then the fun begins. And we also put the same exact barriers in the warehouses. I like that. So this little barrier here, we brought over 22 pallets and we removed 106 mice out of 22 pallets. So and those 22 pallets were in the middle of everything. So if anybody wants to start a canine program, I'm more than happy to help anybody start a canine program. And we have a lot of people here that want to try. I don't feel it belongs in a pest company because it's too hard to manage. It's too hard to manage your job and then your training and then the rodents, because a pest company is not going to want you just to do dogs. You're going to have to do everything. And what we're starting to find here is people are hiring more vendors. They're bringing in more specialists to do a lot of this work. And if you're going to do rodents, everybody asks me what I feel is the most important thing. It's always going to be education. That is going to be the most important thing we can do, is to educate your clients, educate why we have to remove these, how long it's going to take. We're never, ever going to get rid of all the rodents, but our job is to take them down to an undetectable level. That's what we need to do, is get to that undetectable level. And once we get that done, then we start the rest of the program.
I remember, Kim, back when we were in Orlando, that you told me that when there is, for example, because of the customer policies that you cannot bring animals inside the installation and so on, so you have other ways, like for example, an air extractor to make the dogs send and tell you the level of presence. I would like you to share a little bit more of light on that topic, because when you have, for example, a dumpster or is farmland or is like unstable with horses, it's way easier to bring dogs to do the job. But when you have another type of installation or another type of customers, well, the first rule is no animals inside, right? So how do you stay how do you stay with the strategy of the dogs in those scenarios?
We're working right now on creating for ourselves, and we're hoping it'll be adopted on protocol of taking in dogs into food safety and production areas or sensitive areas. The canine, such an important factor. So France, we have Gregory Heron. He developed a product called the Rasco. And the Rasco is a scent sampling system. And they have a big, huge equipment that will actually diagnose everything that's on this Gentex tube. And a lot of people know the Gentex tube through the mold. People that test for mold use this tube and they put it in their machine. It'll tell you exactly what mold you have. It's a synthetic material created in a lab that molecules adhere to. So every molecule will adhere to it. So dogs are perfect for this. So Gregory is a researcher, not a canine person. And he said one day, I guess over beer, I wonder if a dog can do this better. And so they called the local police department in France and they worked on explosives, and the dogs nailed it. I mean, immediately. Because what it does, it's collecting the odor into the room. I could go into a 250 square foot room. I can air sample that room. I can take my air sample back to where the dog is staged, put it in the special cones that they search, and we'll have a distraction cone, we'll have 2 blank cones, and we'll have the odor. And the dog doesn't see what we do. We bring the dog in there, let them run it, they hit the odor. You got rats. This is a brilliant way to check tractor trailers. You know, a lot of the tractor trailers is where the ingress is coming into these warehouses. They're bringing in rats, they're bringing in rodents. I've seen snakes come in through them. So that's where a lot of these guys are getting this type of infestation. So if we could take our air sampling system, we could go through that warehouse, very unobtrusive, quickly do our air samples. Once the dog either clears it or says, no, there's a problem here, then we go back and check it. And we're starting to talk to people. We've been training for 6 months on this, and we're going to certify. And once we're certified, we're ready to put this out on the market. And
And that's nice. I told you I was paying attention.
you did pay attention. I was
Yeah,
shocked you brought
yeah, I
that up.
did.
So, yeah, it's an amazing system, and it's been used now in France, Australia, Germany for about the last 7 to 10 years, depending where you are. And the United States is a little slow sometimes to change to different systems because we're really good at using what works. And so we're bringing this in for pest control. Hawaii has brought it in for invasive insects. So as long as you have a dog that will search whatever odor, you could use this for bed bugs. You
Yeah, I
know,
was about to add that because
yeah.
the example that you gave me was with, well, it started with bedbugs.
Yep. So we had an issue with bed bugs and ended up going after 3 months of training on it. Well, they keep getting bit. We can't find the bug. The dog's not giving an alert. And so we ran this system and he hit on it. He hit on it. Now we're tearing this room up. We found one bed bug in the lamp down in the bulb area. One bed bug, and it was alive, and that's where it was, and so they treated the room. But you know, Rip would get close to it and he'd get frustrated and he would go all around everything. He just couldn't get his nose to the odor. People a lot of times talk about dogs and, well, your dog missed it or your dog did this. Yeah, dogs can miss odor. They're not infallible. We miss things. We're not infallible. But as a team, we should hit it. And it's our job to get the dog's nose to it. If we can get the dog's nose and get the dog an odor, he's going to find it. But dogs are not a miracle, by any means. It's just another tool in our toolbox, right? It's a team. We're using the dogs, and what's so important with dogs is they find what we can't see. In most cases, Rip and Quill have saved my butt because they find what I can't see. And that's what we need them for. A good technician can go find all the signs for a rodent, but he can't do what he can't see. And of course, exclusion. This is just a slide of exclusion is very important to what we do. This is Miss Bailey. Bailey found a mouse nest. And she was so little, but she was bound determined to tell us there was something there. And it wasn't there. It was actually 3 pallets down. So we were just fortunate the way the vacuum of the air was coming, she got it because she was on the opposite end. And it took us a while to find it once she alerted on it. Here's some of our infestations that we've cleared with the dogs. And we've got Norway's here at the trash can. And this is me out in North Dakota. That was fun. That was almost 3,000 rats in about 5 days. That was fun. It was cold, but it was fun. These are roof rats here I think those are roof rats. Maybe not. Maybe those are Norway's. No, those are Norway rats at the end of a dumpster. And then the one there on the right, that was just that was the job that we ended up with 3,000 rats. And all these are between hand caught and dog caught. And now we keep track just to have fun and who can catch the most rats. So if you're going to come out ratting with us, you got to hand catch a rat.
Those are a lot of rats.
Those are a lot of rats. And then once we get the rat population knocked down, I say you can't just let it go, because another population is going to just move right in. They're out there waiting. There's a food source there. There's always a water source in that particular area. Plus, they have an apartment complex. They've got all the water runoff from air conditioning units and condensation and standing puddles. So water's never an issue. The food is never an issue either because of the dumpsters. So it's you've got to do your follow-ups. And again, you don't fix rats, you fix conditions. So we can kill as many rats as we want, and if we don't fix, they're coming back. The ones that are left behind are going to breed. They're going to just repopulate all over again. So again, observation is so important. We can't just keep coming in and dropping the boxes. And I found something the other day I wanted to share that I thought was very interesting. Right now everyone's in a rodenticide war of not using rodenticide anymore and how not to use it and all this stuff. So I read that the internet sales, so we're worried about pest companies and overuse of rodenticide because, as we know now, resistance is just piling up everywhere and it's not working. And of course, second generation, we got secondary poisoning with our wildlife, people's pets. It's just not good in our environment. And we're finding that from cockroaches, songbirds, and now here in the South, it's in wild hogs. So we have rodenticide in wild hogs. What got me on this little kick here that I'm going to share is I listened to Dr. Quinn, and I think she said in 2021, I think was the year she gave, I could be wrong, that second gens they were outlawed in California, but they're finding chemical in coyotes. So they're still finding poison in coyotes after the state's not supposed to even have this. They're not supposed to use it anymore. So I figured, okay, so people are buying it and bringing it in. So let's see here, $5 billion. And that's homeowners. $5 billion is what the homeowners, do-it-yourselfers, are spending on Amazon for rodenticide. So
That's a lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah,
And it's
quite a lot.
yes, and it's totally uncontrolled and being used inappropriately. And the pest control industry, $78 million each year is what the pest control industry is estimated to buying. So do the math. The manufacturers aren't worried about losing pest control sales. They don't need it. They got $5 billion of homeowner sales, if the do-it-yourself store. So education, once again, I don't think they realize, of course they don't realize, they're not educated like pest control, technicians in the industry is. They don't realize the problem they're causing. So by educating, no self-treatment. In our bed bug world, that's the first thing we do. Every building we do a lot of senior living with bed bugs. Every single thing we do, we start with education. And we talk to them about no more self-treating, no more powders, no more cheap sprays from Home Depot. They don't work. And they're making it hard for their pest control to find the bugs because they're just going to crawl on the wall somewhere. And they're causing resistance, within those populations. So we start immediately with education, just with simply bed bugs. This is such a complicated system with the rodents that we've got going on right now. Does that make sense, Mr. Freddie?
Yeah, I was just remembering that back in some years ago, when I was just meeting Gerardo, he was talking about exactly about bedbugs and resistance to deltamethrin, if I am right, in New York, right? And the resistance levels were skyrocketing, right? So yeah, I was remembering about that. Hmm.
So that's the first thing. And we find a lot of people, we're looking at senior living, we're looking at low income, we're looking at some people have nobody, we're looking at mental health. And so they just spread, diataceous earth, behind their bed, which can, harm my dog. And they're getting the purple bed bug raid can from Home Depot because it's cheap. And they don't want people to know they have bed bugs. And we find rats and mice are the same way. Apartment complexes don't want residents or anyone to know they have rats, so they don't do anything about it. They don't say anything for a long time. People who have bed bugs, they're not going to scream, "Hey, I got bed bugs," because of the stigma that comes with it. So if we can add a strong education program, and then that education program is going to teach them why we can't be self-treating, that it's not helping pest control solve their issue, it's chasing things away. And then we add the sanitation. We start removing the things that both of these animals like, especially rats. We start removing their food source, we start removing their living space. That in itself is going to help reduce what we have. Colonies breed, and they breed when they have a lot of food, a lot of water, a lot of resources, the more they have. When we go into drought, so when we start having a drought, the rodents don't breed because we don't have the resources. So they just slow their breeding down. Birds of prey now they're not breeding as much. Some birds won't breed at all, the adults, because again, there's no resources. So we've lowered the rodent population, so the birds of prey population comes down too. They're not stupid animals. They need to have, and most wildlife conservation people or hunters and sportsmen, they get that really well. We just need to bring that into the pest control industry.
Mm. I have some questions, Kim, about, for example, for the business owner that is interested in start to deploy a strategy using dogs. How long are the training time for the dog? And I remember very clearly that when I spoke with George Bedoya, he said you need two types of training. Basically, he said that you need two types of training. You need to train the dogs, and then you need to train yourself, right? So that the dog doesn't give false positive, for example, or false negative, right? That to learn to read the dog, right? How
It is.
long in your experience takes that?
So I've been working with dogs since 1980 and all types of obedience. I was on the federal FEMA disaster team with Canine for cadaver work and for live find, and I've done a lot of other things. But dogs training, to get a dog deployable, if you want to use the word deployable, out in the field working for bed bugs, I can have a dog working in 6 months. Do I
6 months.
6 months? Do I trust the dog at 6 months? No. So now the dog is just in the field working. So you first start by training the dog, socializing the dog, making sure the dog has the right environmental skills, the right environmentals as far as not afraid of people, not afraid of lights, not afraid of tight spaces. So you're doing all the environmentals too. That's a part of your training. Now you got to put obedience on the dog. You don't want a dog gagging, pulling you down the road. So the dog has to have very strong obedience. And then you've got to have your odor work. So there's three different systems: your environmentals, your odor, and your obedience. They all come at different times. At about 6 months, my dogs know very little obedience at 6 months. I don't want them to know it yet. I want them to walk on a leash and that's it. They know what their alert signal is. I always like to work with a natural alert. So if my dog freezes, I'm going to reward that at an alert. I'm not going to teach a sit. If my dog sits, that's his alert. You work with the dog's natural. A lot of people will like to train an alert. I like to do what the dog just does naturally, put it on cue, and that's what I'm going to get. At 6 months, you should be able to start working your dog in an apartment complex for bed bugs. You should, and rodent detection too. But we only do that after we know there's bed bugs there. So we run the experienced dogs and we find 4 or 5 rooms with bed bugs. And then we go and we run the puppies. We run the young dogs, and they're going to get a fine right away, get rewarded, and back in the car they go. After a year, your dog should be certified at a year. So you can do a certification around a year. They're mentally stable to do the work. They can handle the pressure to do the work. They can handle the stress of the handler when the handler gets frustrated. So it's a whole package. It's not just, I'm going to train my dog on bugs and run. You're looking
Yeah,
at,
it's not like buying a bait station and deploy.
oh,
And
this is
after, yeah, sorry, Kim,
no, and I was
continue.
gonna say, and the rodent detection dogs are exact same way. They're all trained like police dogs, drug dogs, bomb dogs. Abatement dogs, to be perfectly honest, I like to raise my abatement, my rodent killers as puppies. I don't let them take a bite until they're 7 to 8 months old. You
Mm.
know, I don't even let them challenge rat. I let them find rats. We hide rats in the woods. We hide them in baskets. We hide them in tubes, and I don't let them kill them because if they get bit because they don't know how to grab them and they're going to grab them by the butt because the head's conflict. So they're not going to grab the head. They're going to grab the butt and the rat's going to turn around and bite them. That bite in the face is brutal. I mean, let's just be honest. It's not a comfortable bite. So we use small rats when we start and the dogs are a lot older and they usually know how to play by then because we've taught them how to grab a toy. And so we've taught them how to grab a toy high, they shake it, done.
Yeah, I remember somebody in Orlando told me that. I can't remember if it were you or if it was Kevin, that when they were training the dogs, they use like smaller rats so the dog doesn't get the negative feedback or the trauma of being bitten.
Yes.
And when the dog reach full size and is all trained, they don't have like the experience trauma that freezes them or stop them
Yes.
from going all in, right? Were
That's
you? I
no, it's
can't remember
exactly
right.
right. No, it's exactly right. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the only way to train is on live rats. I raise rats here. And but our abatement dogs all start with detection. I want them to use their nose first. I want to build confidence and they'll work with the older dogs. We don't rush them. I mean, these are, I hate to anthropomorphize, but these are my family. I mean, I love these dogs. I spend every day with them, training, working. You see their personalities. They're a tool to a pest company, but to those of us who run these dogs, they're our therapy dogs, they're our friends, they're our partners. We look at them just like a military person would or a police officer would, because you spend more time with your dogs than you do your friends sometimes. I
Mm.
can't think of ever going anywhere. I came to Mexico with a dog, so I've never gone anywhere without a dog. Um, my suggestion is if people want to get into this, they just take their time. There's no rushing. And I'll tell you, the human ego says, I'm going to throw my dog out there and it's going to kill the biggest rat ever. And you're going to lose a very valuable dog. You're going to lose the confidence of that dog. So you have to keep the human ego and attitude in check and realize and just do what's right for the dog. And we'll bring dogs into the company that we feel are going to be fantastic. And Bailey, that little Jack Russell, she was a bed bug dog until she was 2 years old, and she was phenomenal. She had no prey drive whatsoever until she was 2. She killed a squirrel in the yard, and that was it. She became a witch. And we kept trying to make her a bed bug dog and keep her doing bed bugs. And finally, she was like, I am not doing it. And she would just sit and stare at the bed and she just hated it. So poof, she's a rodent dog now, and she loves it. And she's very because of her training as a bed bug dog, she's very patient when we're
Mm.
working rats. She's very, very patient. Um, I'm not for sure why Giselle sent me. I got this particular slideshow, and I wanted to show Bailey killing a rat. If I send you can I click this and close it, Freddie? It won't disconnect me, right?
Yeah, I won't.
Okay, sorry guys, but I am clueless on how to do most of the stuff. Freddie heard me like panicking for 20 minutes before this. I want to send you up. You went away.
No, we're still here. Well, while you are finding what are you going to share, I want to ask another question. After the 12 months when the dogs can be certificated, Kim, you there?
I'm listening. Sorry, my
Okay.
computer's
Okay.
dying.
No hurries. I will wait.
I don't know what's happening here. All right, you're gonna travel with me. So what did you ask, Freddie?
Uh-huh. After the 12 months, when the dog is ready to get the certificate, how long is the ROI on the dogs for that's a very frontal question, right? For any business owner, how long are they going to wait before seeing the return on investment?
They see their investment right away with rodents. I mean, right away. We're there for 7 to 10 days. And when we leave, they don't see rats anymore. I mean, there's no more for them to see. But we also come back once a month, 1 day a month for 3 months. And when we do that, we're checking for burrows, we're checking for open burrows, we're checking for fecal in the areas that we should see it. One of the things we do too, Freddie, is we look at every single building while we're there, every building. And we're looking for ingress around the chews in from the air conditioning unit, the normal places these rodents get into. And we put that in our report, and now they know where they need to do work for ingress. They know, okay, well, we got rats in this building that they didn't know before. We're getting into every single crawl space of every single building. So we're just not working the dumpster, we're working the entire complex. And some of these, are 50, 60 acre complexes. And, we'll get under there first to make sure underneath the crawl space, which is so disgusting. We'll get under there and make sure there's nothing unsafe for the dogs. And then we'll throw the dogs in. And then they find what Chip has found. He will find the rodents that have chewed up into the building from the crawl space. So we can actually find how they're getting in underneath. Now we're giving information back to the pest company. They can come in and do that exclusion. We're also
Mhm.
saying, hey, you've got some type of a spore species. We can't call it mold, but we can say they got some type of a species. You possibly have termites. We're not allowed to identify things because we're not pest people, but we can help give them information for them to come in and look. If there's a water source, a broken pipe, we're like, you got a broken pipe down there, you're feeding rats. We find where the rodents are actually getting into the plumbing. That's something too that we're starting to do. Plumbing. We're starting to do smoke tests on plumbing. So, we're adding that to our tools. So we have us, we have the plumbing, we've got the dogs. Sometimes we don't know how. We're working in a very large warehouse facility, not very large. And they have like a hot water bath a long ways away. And I'm like, a rat came out of that. I'm like,
Mm.
where did that go? Well, it runs through the building. We need to smoke test that building, so they didn't swim upstream, they swam downstream, they swam out. So smoke testing your homes, your residents tells you, are they coming in through the piping? Do you have a broken pipe? Does that need to be excluded? Most pest people aren't allowed, we're not certified to do that, but the homeowner or the business owner can have a plumber come in, fix that chew in the pipe. Restaurants have that issue a lot. We see that a lot in restaurants where the rodents have chewed into pipes. And also too, guys, keep in mind, we're talking Norway rats here. We're talking Norway rats, which are just a totally different species than roof rats. Roof rats are just absolutely a nightmare for everybody. I want to send you this, Freddie. How do I send this over to you so you can, let's see here. Da, 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 da.
Or
I wanted to send you a video with I wanted to show the roof rat video. It's just amazing. So we're standing at this container and opened up and they're just right there looking at us, not running away, nothing. And it wasn't in this particular slideshow. So I apologize for that, but it was a nice video. I'll tell everybody it was a good video. I don't know how to send it over to you.
a ver, I mean, let me see. Okay, let me see if you can send it to me like via email and I can share the screen, Kim.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up here. Da, 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 da. Well, what's this? What's that? That's a Microsoft Teams.
Okay, while you find, are there any questions on on the participants?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions?
Mm-hmm. Now it's a good time. And for the Spanish people that are asking me, we are going to translate this into other languages. They are going to be translated to Spanish or subtitled to Spanish, and we and will be uploaded to the Facebook or Rupipest and the YouTube channel on Rupipest Spanish and Portuguese. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to find it, Freddie. That's okay. I
Yeah.
just I think we need more canine. We need more canine out there. We are just seeing such a good flux in both of our warehouse work and both in our rodent work. And it is sustainable. And I think after the next year, we'll be able to have enough case studies that we can show that it's sustainable for people.
Okay. All right. So if anyone wants to send you a question, you just share on the screen your contact number. If you allow me to share the WhatsApp or the email so people can keep in touch with you, I'll be very pleased to share your information if it's okay with you. So is there anything else that you want to share, like the last tip?
Well, we've been talking a lot about rodents, but dogs are such an important tool for so many things. So we can find mold with the dogs, bed bugs with the dogs, rodents with the dogs. We can find insects, stored product pests. I mean, there's all types of things that these dogs would be excellent in pest control to use. And I really encourage pest control companies, if you're with a pest control company, whether you're here in the States or internationally, talk to your company about starting a program, but using vendors to do it. You
Mhm.
won't have the time to do this because, again, the 3 phases of training take up your life. And you want to come home and relax. Now you got to come home after a full day of working and do your 3 phases of training with your dog. And that gets old after a while. And the training always suffers. And we see that here with pest companies here too. And a lot of some of the big box companies are starting to just work with vendors like ourselves. There's other vendors that are very, very good here in the United States. And working with them, you pay us to sit there to watch. You pay us to give you the information to make your job easier. So a vendor's job should blend in with your company. We should never stand out. We should be a blend. We should be a partner. And our job is to keep the customer with you and to keep them happy. And, you know, people say, well, do people like watching, the dogs kill rats? Surprisingly, we have a crowd around us all the time. Some are rooting for the rats and some are rooting for the dogs, but nevertheless, there's a gladiator scream no matter who wins. Everybody's happy. Um, it's quick, it's not painful. They don't maul, they don't chew. It's literally just a quick shake and done. That's it. It's not a violent at all. Versus they suck down all this poison and they burn to death inside for days. Now they become a wildlife bomb and poison for, second generation wildlife and poisoning. So that would be just research it. And I'm happy to talk to any company. We're happy to come work. We travel nationally, internationally. Happy to help you succeed at whatever you would like to do.
And I'm very sure that we are going to have another presentation from you when we manage to blend the way the software operates and keep tracks on the indicator that are most useful to you. So yes, it's going to be a very interesting year. To everybody that is looking on the video, on the live video or a recording video or a translate video, any question that may linger still, please feel free to send me via email. I will channel it to Kim. Kim, again, I am very, very grateful and very honored to have you on this stage. It's been delightful to learn. It's always for me a way to understand and to have a better angle to the pest control operation, because as everybody knows, we are on the software side on the things. So yes, it's always pure gold for us to learn from a lot of experience, not only just from a book, but actual experience on the field. And well, again, I will share the translation to the subtitles for Spanish and for Portuguese. The video is going to be also in English in the YouTube channel and in the Facebook in English, the Rupipest English version. And again,
And
thank you all
Freddie,
for. Mhm.
before you hang up, before we leave, I just want to tell you I love your software. Thank you so much for creating that. I am enjoying it thoroughly through this company. So it's a shameless plug, but it's beautiful. Thank you so much.
And thank you all guys for make this possible. See you in the next conference, right?
Bye, everybody.
Bye.